Hi, I'm Gary Musich, President and CEO of Visit Atlantic City, and you're watching South Jersey Business with Joe Molineaux.
Welcome to South Jersey Business with Joe Molineaux. Thank you for joining us as we share information, tips, and techniques that can make our business community and your business more successful. Thank you to Stockton University for the opportunity to produce this show focusing on business in South Jersey. In just a moment, we will talk with Gary Musich, President and CEO of Visit Atlantic City. I have known Gary for over 2 decades. As we got to know each other through his work in the convention industry, his commitment to his community, as well as becoming friends, I've had a front row seat to his career development and drive to make our region better and a better convention destination. Gary combines a clear vision and hard work to reach a measurable level of success for the team he leads. He mixes a mindset of solid ideas with a committed work ethic and his willingness to try unique strategies to grow conventions that benefit our region. So let's get right down to business with today's featured guest, Gary Musich. Gary, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
So can you talk a little bit about your role that you undertake to lead Visit Atlantic City?
So I'm the President and CEO of Visit Atlantic City. Visit Atlantic City is the best way to look at it is an economic development engine in the tourism industry. And in the tourism industry, in our case, consists of leisure marketing, leisure visitors. Primary role is the convention development piece of that. We represent about 55% of that business in the entire destination. And we're also, part of us is also the Film Commission, the Atlantic City Sports Commission, and those are all event-driven and travel-driven segments.
There's a lot going on there. We're going to unpack a lot of that throughout the show, but let's go back to your personal. We mentioned your career and how I had kind of a front row seat to watch you grow through the industry. But what was that light bulb moment? Take us back to where you decided, you said, I want to be in the convention business, or at least the tip to the path that brought you here.
All right. Well, this is a little complicated story. So, as a kid, you're always looking for jobs. What do? I worked on boats. And I ended up working in restaurants. And I thought, hey, hospitality industry is fun. And, I looked for a direction after high school, or where do I want to go to school? What do I want to do? And I actually took some tests that said, hey, you have personality for the hospitality industry. My parents forced me to do it. And, and I went to Paul Smith College in upstate New York. Had a great time, was at the Olympics in 1980 there, met my wife of 40 years, Alice, there. And I got into the business through, that's where it kind of started. I was a big skier. I moved out west, went out there just to ski, ended up getting jobs with different companies. Really, I've only worked for a small handful of companies. Yeah. If you remember, the Associated Inn and Restaurant Company of America. And it started there. I was in hotel operations, and I moved around the country with them. And I thought, hey, this is how my career is going to develop. And long story short, I was moving around. I wanted a place to raise my family. Had an opportunity. I was in Boston working for Hyatt Hotels. Had an opportunity to move here and work for what was Bally Entertainment at the time. Through a recruiter, I moved to Galloway Township. I lived there for 25 years, raised my family there, and here we are. We're sitting here now, and my life in Atlantic City has been a wonderful addition to my experiences.
Yeah, I like to say that not only this college, but also Atlantic City, owes me nothing. I owe everything to the experiences that I've had here in Atlantic City and in the region, and the school has brought me as well. So it's so interesting you say that. I'm glad you kind of primed that next question. I was going to talk about your educational background, but also more importantly, the travel that goes with this kind of job and how you learn from going and having these other experiences that you bring back to your leadership role here. You mentioned Colorado, you mentioned being out west, you mentioned Boston, you mentioned all these other experiences that you've had, even that very quaint experience in upstate New York, right, which is a great place to go to college, right? But you had the Olympics. So you got to be indoctrinated into a major event that you were witness to, right? An Olympic hosting event, right, for our country. So how important are those educational elements and that travel to, not just to you, but to the team that you lead?
So, it's a big part of this because our education is interacting with our buyers at conferences That's really how this works. We're at trade shows, we're at meetings, we really focus on appointment-based contact with our customers. So the education is multi-layered here because one, we're at competing destinations. So we might be in Milwaukee, we might be in Chicago, we might be in Baltimore, we might be in these other cities, and we're seeing how they're doing things. We're seeing how their convention center operates. What's the service in the hotels? What events are there, and what do these customers look for in a destination when we're interacting with them in these meetings? So there's a lot of travel associated with this, and we have a very aggressive marketing calendar. It touches all these different business segments. The education really comes in examining what our competitors are doing. How are they doing it? Yeah. What's making somebody choose a destination? And then what do we have to adjust to make them choose Atlantic City?
I'm so glad. Again, you're almost like reading my mind on the way this interview hopefully will go. But you talked about the customer, and how important is it to you and to the process that you're educating the customer on the product and the offering to actually help them make that decision to come here? I mean, I have to believe it's critical, but what goes into that education?
So in this day and age, when you're bidding, and remember our marketing, when you're looking at these things, you're looking to create consideration, you're looking at to create awareness on the destination, and then you want action, right? Where's the opportunity to bid? What kind of events work best in the destination, right? Not everything works well in every destination. If you're, as an example, healthcare, academia, you're going to choose a city like Boston or Philadelphia because of the industry that's there. So a lot of that goes into it.
Sure.
And we're focusing on different industries and what works well. And one of the things to always remember is that traveler, a business traveler, somebody who's looking to choose a destination, their expectations are high. Our destination is representing them. And that's how I look at these as partnerships. Yeah. It's not just about buying our product, it's about how do we buy and how do we make you come back time and time again. It's a lot easier to do that than to go out and continue to find new business and new reasons and new explanations.
Keep the business through multiple year contracts.
We all travel for our jobs, and expectations are high. And the product in Atlantic City is not just Atlantic City, it's our region.
Yes.
And that's how we have to sell this, because there's a lot to this region. But our hotel product I'd put it up to anything and anybody.
I love it. Sit tight, because we got more show coming, okay? And we're just starting to unpack the whole thing.
Great.
Next up, a quick look at how you can check out past episodes of the show. Then we'll be right back with more business talk featuring Gary Musich, President and CEO of Visit Atlantic City, right here on South Jersey Business with Joe Molineaux. Solid business requires a solid strategy. Let's discover a few tips and maybe a lesson or two from the show's featured guest, Gary Musich, President and CEO of Visit Atlantic City, on today's strategy session. Gary, how do you describe and define success?
I do it in two ways. One, we all have, there are goals, there are KPIs, there are objectives that you do and plan. We have a multi-year plan, and you work into that, massage that, and change, right? Every business has that. But I think preparing staff and watching them grow and watching how they work within your structure of that organization and watch who flourishes, who grows. I put a lot of success on that. And the individuals, and you watch people get empowered and you watch them develop, and all of a sudden the ideas flow, and all of a sudden your objectives change and your plan changes and your goals change because you see this talent that starts to come out. Yeah. I put a lot of emphasis on that talent, and I view that And I view what we're doing right now and what the people are doing on the staff at Visit Atlantic City. They're the ones that are really coming up with these ideas. And that's a lot of it. The objectives are one piece of it, because we all have those goals that we have to flow through. And but how you get there is really what we're gauging our success on.
And you're letting people get there. It sounds like you're encouraging, you're also inspiring them to take on that ownership of what they're doing and put those ideas forward.
Absolutely.
That's how you get good ideas out of people.
No question.
Speaking of success, every time I turn around, and more every day, every time I turn around, someone's talking about the work you're doing, these innovative things you're doing, and they always have a smile on their face, just like you have a smile on your face when you're talking about the work you do, right? But how do you maintain that networking level? Like, what do you do, and what do you encourage your people to do to keep that network strong, keep those referrals coming in, like people wanting to work with you, right? What do you do?
So, I think we all have to sit down and look at how do we benefit from what we all do, right? Collaboration, right? And one of the things, and this is not just in Atlantic City or this business. I think, we're all coming out, and I hate when people bring up, oh, COVID this and COVID that. And yes, it was a big challenge for everybody.
Yeah.
But we're out of it now, and we have to get back to collaborating and looking at all these different parts of our business and say, okay, how do we all benefit from, maybe it's a small slice with one another, but maybe it's not. How do we benefit from those systems that we can share, that network that we share? But collaboration, I think, is critical for this. Our primary industry in Atlantic City is tourism. There's a lot of different components to that, right? We have a leisure travel, we have a meeting, an event piece of it, we have entertainment, you have gaming, you have all these different things. And then you have all these partners outside of that supports this. How are we talking to one another? Were we talking to one another? We've started some steps there to improve that collaboration, show transparency in what we're doing, show who our customers are in our plan, and how does that flow? How does that viral approach get around? And I think I see it happening. Collaboration to me is probably the most important thing we're doing right now.
It's very forward thinking, for sure, and we're watching it happen as you're talking about it. It's actually happening in the real world. You mentioned your employees. You work with a dynamic group. I know many of them. You work with a dynamic group of diverse individuals doing different roles. How do you find, or should I say, how do you continue to find the quality of worker that you need, the quality of team member that you need? What goes into that process for you as a leader?
So, again, personalities within the team are really important, right? That creates your culture, and it's something that we want people to feel good about what they're doing, right? Contribution is critical. Doesn't matter what your role is. We want to hear what everybody says. We have staff meetings every 2 weeks that everybody attends. We have communication, transparency. Everybody knows what our goals are. Everybody knows what our plan is, and everybody has something to say. There's this thing out there, psychological safety in business. And what does that mean? That means that there is no fear in offering your opinion. And that's the environment we want to create, because you never know who's going to come up with the best new idea. We're a marketing company and we're a sales company, a business development company. So some of that is, really kind of, nose to the grindstone, day to day planning, lots of hours and lots of time. And it's those ideas that support changing this market, this business, the tourism business, the leisure travel business, the meeting business, is changing constantly. And we want those ideas from the entire staff. And we don't want people to be afraid to throw their ideas on the table because somebody might think it's a bad idea. There's no bad ideas.
I'm going to ask you this, and I don't even know the answer. I don't know which way you're going to go with this, but what is your favorite thing about the work you get to do each and every day?
I have endless energy, so it keeps me busy. So let's start with that. I love the business. So for starters, you have to like what you're doing. You need to love where you live or love what you like to do, and that keeps the energy flowing. Everything, there's always new things, right? We really, in this current company, we've been doing this for a year. It's really, in its current structure, it started really January 1st last year. That's when we kind of rolled this out, these ideas. And all these new things keep coming into play, right? How do you build leisure-based events? Like, that's where we're at right now. We want to know what is going to draw people here, and how do we continue to change perception of Atlantic City, grow these partnerships. Like, if you look, our partners, people think Philadelphia is a competitor of this. It's not. In the meeting industry, they're a partner. Different business segments. We need to be present there. We're there at the best of Atlantic City, partnered with properties and the best of Philly. And we get to show the best of Atlantic City. So I think it's a multi-tiered thing that creates energy. It's like anything, if we all like the same thing, it'd be a boring world we live in, but it's not. It's like music, not everybody listens to the same music. Why? Well, because we don't all have the same taste. We all are driven by different energy and different levels of energy, different things that motivate us. I think we got to stay motivated. We got to keep throwing new ideas out and trying new things in this city.
Well, clearly the decision makers and the powers that be that put you in this leadership role made a very wise choice. So I can't wait for what the future holds. But speaking of the future, sit tight because we've got a lot of shows still coming up.
It's great. Thank you.
Up next, we're putting Gary Musich to the test with the M4 Big Money question right here on South Jersey Business with Joe Molineaux. As you are aware, management, marketing, money, and media are the essential parts of any business. And when you are the president and CEO of a company that showcases all the dynamic convention tourism business offerings for a major seaside resort city, you need to know how to mix up all four M's. So it's time for the M4 Big Money question with today's featured guest, Gary Musich, president and CEO of Visit Atlantic City. Gary, let's break them down. Let's start with your management style.
All right. So, that's deep. I have a couple of things I don't do. I want to build a team that is comfortable in expressing themselves and taking some risk. Obviously we have guidelines, we have goals, we have policies, we have all these things to keep yourselves within your culture.
Sure, you need the guardrails.
You need guardrails. But we're a marketing and sales company, and there's some behavior, I don't want to say behavior, but some systems and process in that is just inherently risk driven. But I want them to take risks. I want to get out. I want the marketing team to try new ideas. I want the sales team to be out there thinking they can do this. Groups that don't normally use a destination as an example, like Atlantic City, but why not? And looking at new ideas and how you present this city, I want them tapped to be the best they can be, and I want them always looking at where they're going to be down the road.
Gary, something just dawned on me. What makes you a really good leader is that you did exactly that when you were coming up through the ranks in that role as a very successful representative and salesperson through the ranks, right? So you think having that knowledge and them understanding that you had been there and done that, it also helps them understand more about what you're asking them to do?
Yeah, I mean, we all have mentors in our lives. Yeah. Everybody does. And I think our team mentors our team. And I think that is a critical piece of this, because then everybody's buying into this, and they're buying into the plan. They're growing within themselves, and that's really relates to commitment to this.
That was a sub-management question, so I better jump back on track. I didn't mean to cut you off. Marketing. Let's talk about the traditional forms of marketing that you utilize.
Sure. So we have a calendar that's very interesting, because you have a marketing-driven calendar that I actually call it a sales calendar that puts sales team in front of buyers.
Okay.
Traditional trade shows. What do we make Atlantic City look like at a trade show? How do we present ourselves to a buyer? How are you cultivating RFPs? How are you doing that piece of it? What was new this year was the leisure piece of this, that is messaging, that is branding, and you saw that in a lot of different ways. Typically, the biggest piece of this is the messaging plan, and what did we do to create a plan to kind of change what you're talking about. Part of that was talking about who our community is and getting to know us as people, what makes us tick, and then how do you connect that to your plan. So, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but the plan is to kind of broaden what we are. We have out of home, right? You see billboards, you see other things. You have the digital piece of this, because we're all on our devices. We're all looking at our machines every waking moment for the most part. Is that good? Well, no, but if you're in marketing and you're looking at a plan and directing that, It is. The biggest challenge we've had in Atlantic City was changing that message.
Yeah.
You know, what is our true
Clearly.
brand? Right? We changed it to Visit Atlantic City. Why? Well, that's what we'd like you to
Yeah,
do.
the action.
We want
You're
you to
asking them for the action.
right?
Yeah.
America's favorite playground. That's great. But in this day and age, you choose Chicago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
NYC, New York City and Company. The name is in everything. That's why
Exactly.
we're now Visit Atlantic City.
I love that. The third M is money. You don't have to go too deep in it, but it is mean, it's green. We all need it. How is that? What do you do with, you talk, I mean, I know there's a monetization piece to it, but let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's all about that. We track things by economic impact. What does that mean? That means jobs, it means taxation, it's revenue to the properties and partners.
And it's room nights.
It's room
all those
nights.
measurements.
So all that factors in. We do for every event that our sales team produces, in this case, even the air show, leisure events, we do an economic impact evaluation. So we can actually tell you pretty accurately how much money was spent, where it was spent, how much was spent on rooms, ancillary spending, taxation, jobs that were created, temporary and permanent. We actually do that for because that's all flows into what we're an economic development organization in tourism.
Exactly.
That's what we do.
So the final M, media. We could spend a whole hour talking about media, but we don't have that much time. But let's talk about how important it is and what you're doing, especially when you get to the data and collecting the data and the data mining, how you're using that data to make the offering better.
Yeah, so that is, we collect a lot of data. We've gotten, I think, really good at it, and we're making decisions based on the data. What makes you come here? Why? What do you like to do? What don't you like to do? What is the data telling us? We're tracking. The data tells us if you're coming to our website, are we referring you for a guest room? What are you looking at on our website? Our entire effort is driven by a couple of things. Creating a consideration, awareness, consideration, and action. That action is, are you signing up for a communication, a newsletter from Atlantic City? Now we're talking to you every single month. Digital communication is driving all of the data. And this year we're going to have a visitor profile all year long, a new visitor profile study is being done. Oh. It's going to tell people why they come, just as important, why don't you come?
Yeah.
What travel habits have changed?
Yeah.
What makes you tick? How do you stay longer in Atlantic City? Think about it. If you stay one extra day, that's hundreds of millions of dollars in economic impact to the destination.
And your key is to find out what they're doing, what they're not doing, what they would like to do, and that's how you're building this destination out with the help of a lot of partners to create the offering that people want to be part of.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, it's genius. Thank you for sharing the answers to the M4 Big Money question with us.
Thank you.
There you have it, Gary Musich, a well-blended mix of management, marketing, money, and media. We have some more business content coming up, including another segment with today's featured guest, so stick around for more South Jersey Business with Joe Molineaux. Now it's time to shine the spotlight on Gary Musich and gain some extra illumination on exactly what Visit Atlantic City offers and brings to the community right here in South Jersey. So Gary, thank you for allowing us to turn a spotlight on Visit AC.
Thanks.
So let's talk first about what it is that Visit Atlantic City does.
So Visit Atlantic City is an economic development organization, private company, who is responsible for driving economic development with the meeting, trade show, and event business in tourism to Atlantic City. It's essentially what our primary role is.
So that was a lot of stuff going on. So the next question would be, how does that get accomplished?
So it's done through a direct sales effort, but we're a marketing company. So you have leisure marketing, you have different types of travelers, right? We focus on a leisure traveler. We focus on the film commission. We focus on international group tour, the sports commission, and convention development. Those are all the pieces of what Visit Atlantic City actually is. And we're a marketing company, so it's direct contact with buyers on the sales side of things, and it's messaging and branding that you see out there right now.
So that leads to the next question, which is, who is the customer?
So, okay, so you travel, right?
Yep.
So let's look at the leisure piece of this first. You travel. What stimulates you to travel? Where do you like to go? What are your habits? That's a leisure traveler. Long weekends, whatever you like to do and where you like to go. You like beaches, you like sailing, you like gambling.
Yeah. Or if I'm passing through somewhere, why would I add on and stay overnight at a certain destination versus another destination?
Or if you were doing business, like one of our other pillars, attending a convention, why would you go back on a leisure basis?
Okay, that's
The
good.
other pillar is our convention development market, which is primarily what we do. Drives $300 million into the Atlantic City market. That customer is a meeting trade show planner. We drive attendance. Atlantic City drives 600,000 rooms a year and about 1 million people in that segment. Put that in perspective, that's as big as a city like Baltimore or Pittsburgh.
Wow. So also, because you mentioned the film commission,
Right.
and you also mentioned, so the customers could be someone that wants to do a movie here?
Production companies, when you look at, it all kind of works the same. They're just different business segments. So production companies, New Jersey has wonderful tax credits now. So Netflix just building a facility in the state. It's driving a big interest in doing business and productions in New Jersey. So we have a film commission and a staff that looks to and works with promoters and companies to bring their productions to the city. Group tour.
Yeah.
International companies, you'd be surprised at how many people come from Europe and South America on vacation to Atlantic City in these small group tours. We work with companies in those countries, UK, Germany, Argentina, to work with us on that basis. And the Sports Commission, youth sports, triathlons, the MAC tournament that's coming to Boardwalk Hall.
Yeah.
That kind of business is all developed in the same way. Relationships, agreements, appointments, bids. It's all done the same way.
So we covered the what, the how, the who, and now we have to cover the why. What drives you personally and the organization to just get up every day and do what you guys do? Personally, what drives you?
I think we're making a difference in Atlantic City right now. I really do. I look at where we are and what the potential is of this city. And I look at a big part of this is how it's changed, right? Where 95% of the rooms are occupied by a database-driven gaming customer. It's still the core of the business here.
Sure.
But how is it evolving and maturing as a destination? I love being part of that and part of the new ideas. And what I really like about it is how everybody's jumping into the same pool and working together going forward, Joe.
That is great. So we turned the spotlight on you, but I guess the future looks bright. So what is in store? What do we have in store for Visit AC and for Gary Musich? What's next?
I think Atlantic City's, we're turning this corner and changing the perception of Atlantic City. I think the future's extremely bright. We have new things coming up, new events coming up, but we have a new way of thinking about who and why and how do we present Atlantic City to the future traveler, whether it's a meeting customer, whether it's a company coming in to film a production, or somebody coming in to enjoy a concert, gaming, or the beach. I think the future is really bright, and we're all working together on it, and we're coming up with new ideas to keep that rolling.
That is awesome, and thank you for allowing us to turn the spotlight on Visit Atlantic City.
Thank you for having me.
That was today's Spotlight, providing a clear view of what Visit Atlantic City is all about. We'll be right back. Well, that's the show. We had a solid business discussion with Gary Musich, President and CEO of Visit Atlantic City. Once again, thank you to Stockton University and everyone that makes this program possible. Let's do it again next time, and until then, let's get growing, South Jersey. Thanks for watching.